looking specifically at the community of inquiry. Then what are the typologies of barriers for online education? Then models for cultural and group differentiation in online learning, and predictors of adult learner satisfaction and frustration in online learning environment. The technological tools, for example, they related to the basic administration of the content, but also in terms of assisted technologies, for example, for learners with disabilities. What were the most important knowledge gaps in the literature? There was an inconsistent literature on the transition of pedagogical principles from face-to-face learning to online learning. So that was not clear to what extent we can transfer pedagogical traditional principles into online learning. Then a lack of recognition of the pedagogical potential of digitalization for collaborative learning. We didn't have information on the effectiveness of educational tools. There was no information on how to adjust the design of collaborative learning to different groups and cultures. And there was very little information on how to include learners with specific needs and abilities, such as people with visual and hearing impairment, dyslexia, autism, or, for example, hyperactivity. I think that is an important aspect to consider to make the labor market more flexible in terms of integrating people with learning disabilities. From the literature review, we concluded the following 5 factors which actually describe the reality of collaborative learning in vocational education. And this environment consisted of 5 factors. Cultural factors we need to consider, specific inclusion factors, then which pedagogical principles to apply, and the interplay between technology and pedagogy. So how can really technological tools support our online pedagogy? And finally, the infrastructure. This was the result of the literature review as a kind of initial conceptualization. And we looked deeper and we validated and tested this initial model now with our research. We started with qualitative research with interviews and focus groups, and we found the following main aspects, the main factors. The biggest differences between online and face-to-face teaching relate to the human behavior and sometimes the lack of the human dimension in online learning. For example, if I quote an interviewed person, yeah, because when you are online, you are not seeing the person and you can say whatever you want to close that, and you don't see the reaction of the person. So it's actually the physical exposure to a person, and you don't lose the social ethics for dealing with people. But it basically works only if everyone got the camera on. This was one of the key findings which I would like to stress we realized that people were actually hiding behind the camera. So it is most important to animate and to motivate your learners to switch the camera on when you are teaching. The interaction was another important factor to create a safe space and to emphasize also, the importance of openness, of freedom of expression, of inclusion of expression, and increase the variety, for example, of multiple channels of interaction. Another factor was the inclusive learning environment to really thrive on diversity and to make sure that everybody has a barrier-free access to the technology. And impaired learners, just 2 quotes of our interviewed people which had experience with impaired learners. The teacher or the trainer should listen to the person with a disability and follow his or her lead in relating to him or her. Or another interviewee said, I also have done a lot of work with hearing impaired people, and it is most important, especially when they are operating in a loop system, that they can see your face. And it is the little things that make the big a difference. Important, what we heard from a conference participant when we presented the findings was that we actually should really consider and anticipate the needs of impaired learners when we design our online teaching. So very often we are not aware of the specific needs of learning impaired people. To summarize all the findings, we applied a software here, qualitative analytic software, MaxQ Data, and you see the summary of all the factors mentioned here. We did afterwards a quantitative research with a survey, and you see here findings confirming our qualitative study, focusing on a safe learning environment, increasing the variety of communication, or providing for a multicultural course content, specifically as we have to take the cultural context and the cultural experience, the previous cultural experience and the cultural conditioning, and eventually also the cultural biases and stereotypes into account when we are designing our online classroom. Or for example, we asked for factors of participant satisfaction, which you can see here. We found a positive and significant correlation between increasing the variety of communication and the multicultural course content, as well as a positive and significant correlation between to provide a safe learning environment and multicultural course content. There was a significant negative correlation between the students' motivation and the students' attendance. And we found a significant factor which relates to students hiding behind their cameras. This is something I experience daily. Also in my lectures, there are several reasons why students or vocational learners, professional learners might hide behind the camera. But it's an important aspect just to increase also the human dimension in online learning. So what were the main conclusions after the empirical research? There is a specific pedagogical focus on hiding behavior, which we need to take into account, and to provide compatible, safe, and data-secured communication tools for learners and teachers. For the course design, we need to increase the variety in communication and tools, and also Web 2.0 tools, for example, to keep people engaged, to keep people motivated, and to have a multicultural and diverse course content, to cater for different perspectives of the learners. And then to be further developed the specific needs of impaired people. Based on our research, then we developed for trainers in vocational education the following 6 modules. Module 1, Introduction in Collaborative and Inclusive e-Classroom Environment. Each module had about 80 slides and for example, 4 units. Yeah, so it's impossible to present to you in this presentation all the content of all the 6 modules. So I will focus exemplarily on module number 2. What are the learning styles in collaborative and inclusive e-classrooms environment? Because I think this relates most closely to our project. So this was module 2. What are the learning styles in collaborative and inclusive e-classrooms environment? This also was the main theoretical background of our research, the main knowledge background. Module 3, what are the strategies for collaborative and inclusive classroom environment? More pragmatic, what are the strategies to be developed, for example, for the trainers? How to implement collaborative learning? How can Moodle as a learning management system engage students? This was module 5. So here, more technical module. And module 6, how diversity and inclusion affects the e-classroom environment. So these were the 6 modules, very comprehensive information, which we are happy to share with you. If you wish, I can give you access to those modules. And I will focus now on module 2. What are the learning styles in collaborative and inclusive e-classrooms environment? Oops, I need to. And now I would like to share with you another presentation. Okay, so this is now the practical output for each vocational trainer, vocational teacher, and exemplarily, I'm showing you module 2. This was the learning material we had produced for the trainers. So again, the topic was, what are the learning styles in a collaborative and inclusive e-classroom environment? I'm showing you exemplarily the general structure of the material. First, we started with the learning outcomes. So by the end of this module, the learner, in this case, you know, the trainer, will be able to identify diverse learning styles of the learners and accordingly adjust her or his teaching and training style and instructive strategies. So adjusting the training styles and instructive strategies to the diverse learning styles of the learners. And eventually to understand how the Moodle's platform course design later in Unit 4, also supported by artificial intelligence and supported by a deep learning, actually, or machine-based learning, how to personalize the learning behavior or the behavior of the learner. These were the learning outcomes. Then we provided for each module a self-test for the trainer, asking key questions before designing the training content. What are the learning styles? First of all, getting a theoretical background and knowledge about different learning styles. How do you adjust teaching style to learning style? What is the difference between objectivism and constructivism? We focused very much on constructivism. So constructivism related to the individual perception of meaning. So rather than a standardized objective theory, we hold that each learner constructs her or his individual learning reality. That is what we understand as constructivism. It's a, phenomenological term, which most of you know by maybe from research methodology courses. So rather than positivism, we are relating to constructivism. What role does goal-orientated learning play? What are the three components of a community of inquiry? It's a very important topic if it comes to inclusion. And how can a community of inquiry help with inclusive groups? So this relates only to Unit 1. And as I said, we have 4 units for this module. Then at the beginning, we provided the trainer with keywords. For example, instructive strategies, instructive media, inclusive learning, multicultural learning styles, online collaborative learning styles, Kolb's learning style, Felder-Silverman framework as some key theories on learning styles. You see the 4 units. The first one focuses on the learner-centered learning style. The Unit 2 provided the theoretical background relating to the Kolb's learning concept and Felder-Silverman as theories which are still, although having been implemented now some years ago, but they are still very relevant for current research. But we updated this theory with Unit 3, which related to digital literacy learning styles, so specific aspects of digitalization, and also with cultural concepts. And Unit 4, course design for identification of learning styles. Then Unit 1, okay, I can move on. So what are learning styles, which is the active constructive search of each individual for meaning. And in doing that, we apply each individual a number of cognitive, affective, and also physiological factors to develop meaning of any phenomenon we are going to learn. And the overall idea is actually to perceive learning as a relationship approach, interactive, inclusive, And the main objective was to develop metacognitive abilities so that the students really learn to think about how they think, that they identified, for example, their learning processes and how they could control and plan their own individual personalized learning. So this was actually the main objective we had in mind. Here you find again a description of what is constructivism, and the focus is creating meaning, individualized meaning, but the focus then would be on problem solving and critical thinking, and also on reflection and being actively engaged, yeah, taking ownership of the learning process, of the own monitoring and planning and controlling of an individualized learning process. So the experience of the learner should at the end be more personalized, and learning should happen through relationships. Okay, so you have here another background information on collaborative and goal-orientated learning. I think this is what you can't see. The next one. This all had, of course, the objective that the trainer should create creative instructive strategies. These instruction strategies should be based on a student learning philosophy, student-centered learning philosophy, applying a variation of teaching strategies, then designing a classroom environment that facilitates diversity, and unlocking and utilizing the potential of the students. And the teaching should relate very much to the specific context of the learners, the cultural context, for example, and also their previous experiences in everyday life. The student should get accustomed to critical thinking, yeah, and reflection. So you see here, actually, the trainer should create this community of inquiry. It is a shared inquiry in which the teacher is a partner. So the role of the teacher is a partner in this collaborative relationship, a mentor, a coach, rather than structuring, you know, and guiding the learning experiences. The trainer should empower the learner to develop her or his own learning path. So the role of the instructor is to facilitate learning and in the social presence of all the group members. And yeah, regarding learning styles, the trainer should identify that there are a number of different learning styles. And first of all, of course, the learner must have the knowledge on the very diverse learning styles which are applied by the learners. So these learning styles, for example, are differentiated by age, by level of achievement, the willpower to achieve, for example, the ability to achieve the learning objective. Then the culture, global versus analytical, processing preferences. I will come back to these points when we come to for example, to the Kolb's learning theory. Differentiated by gender, differentiated by the special needs. of learners with disabilities. There might be different learner groups. Again, I will come back to that when we are in the theory of learning styles. For example, there are visual learners. They learn by watching, by observation. Others, they learn by hearing. Others, they learn by experiencing. They are kinesthetic learners. They learn by participating, by interacting, by doing, by touching, by tasting. And all these diverse learning styles we should identify in our learning group. Okay, then for each unit, we also provided the references. Now we come to unit 2. This is the theory background, which I found most interesting to reflect on as a trainer. And you might be aware of Kolb's learning style, that if you look at this model, that learners learn, for example, by feeling, or the opposite of feeling would be thinking, or the opposite of this continuum, which is the perception continuum, either feeling or thinking, or by different processes, either by reflective observation, so they are more watching, or by active experimentation, they are then more doers. And based on that, there are several learner categories. For example, the accommodators. These are the people who learn by feeling and doing. The divergers, they learn by more feeling and watching. The convergers, they learn by thinking and doing. Or the assimilators, who learn by thinking and watching. And each different learning style now has an impact on how we design our training. We should adjust our training style according to these different learning styles. Okay, any questions so far? I give you just a few examples. You might have, for example, asynchronous learners or synchronous learners. You know, the synchronous learners, they learn in a classroom, for example. In a classroom, they learn real time in the classroom, whereas the asynchronous learners, they prefer to learn outside the classroom. They are, for example, learners who focus more on abstract conceptualization, based on scientific approaches, based on models we are showing them, rather than the doing approach. In this case, if you have more these asynchronous learners, of course you need to provide them with content, with theories, and you know, more abstract, maybe scientific background. And this has an implication, for example, on the different reading times, reading time for the material provided on the online platform. For example, the convergers and the assimilators. If we go back, the convergers, these are the thinkers and doers, and the assimilators are the thinkers and watchers. So more the thinkers really, they spend more time reading online then diverges. They are more, you know, the people who feel and watch, who feel and do, and the accommodators, they spend more time on online discussions than the assimilators or the convergers. Or you have another implication, the convergers and the assimilators, they prefer more abstract experience. So like model discussion. And for that, you need to give them abundant electronic documents. Vice versa, the feeling people, the divergers and the accommodators, they prefer more concrete experience. So for example, with group work or case studies or interactive training, and focusing on a highly communicative learning environment. So this was Kolb, the basic Kolb learning theory. If you look at Felder-Silverman, Felder-Silverman has 32 different learning styles in their framework. And I'm not opening it now, but you see here, let's take a test. There is an interesting questionnaire on those 32 learning styles, which you might conduct with your learners. And based on this, on the analysis of this questionnaire, you might then design your training accordingly. So if you click on that Index of Learning Styles questionnaire, you will find those questions assessing the different 32 learning styles. Summarized, you have these learning styles here. You have sensory learners, intuitive learners, visual, auditory, so hearing learners, learners who are more inductive learners rather than deductive learners. Again, we know that, for example, from methodology also, inductive is more based on particularity, on particular factors, developing a pattern of thinking based on experience, of individual experience, whilst deductive, as you know, is more based on scientific knowledge, deriving guidelines for action, for example, from a model. Active or reflective, sequential or global. And you will find now, although we don't have the time, of course, to go through all of these preferred learning styles in this presentation, you will find now a detailed description of each learning style to familiarize, if you are interested, even more with these different learning styles.
Rudy, maybe you cannot see it. There are two persons who would like to ask a question. I see Maja and Rami. Maybe you
okay, please. Sorry, I didn't see it. Yeah.
Only I love what you present about the learning styles, and that you have a questionnaire for that.
Yes.
I used with my students, but it is in Arabic language, but not also all learning styles as you presented. You present a holistic or more comprehensive than what I use. Then I love to share from you to share the questionnaire link with us in order to apply this with ourselves before our students.
Sure.
If you have the link of this questionnaire, we will be very happy to use it with us at the beginning. Then with
Of
our
course, Nuha, let
students,
me just answer
because
that.
I have one, but it is in Arabic language and it is only for 3 learning styles, not for,
Nuha, let me answer that.
yes.
If you will get this this presentation, right? So I have sent it to you. I have sent it to your email. Please check your email. And if you click on this here index of learning styles, if you click and open it, you will find the questionnaire.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I received it. I received the email. I will do
And you
all
can
of my
share
tests.
it with the
Yes,
other
and I
colleagues.
share it with my colleagues. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Right. You're welcome.
Good morning. Hello, Herr Professor.
Good morning. I can't
Maybe
see you.
will,
I can't see you. I just see my slide at the moment.
It's okay. Yeah. Thank you very much for the interesting presentation and these learning styles and teaching styles and so on. But I want to raise some point. Maybe it's controversial a little bit.
Yeah.
We shouldn't.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, we should not now these days. I mean, we have to keep our eyes open very, very carefully on what is the artificial intelligence is progressing and making a crossroad with education.
Yeah.
We think students are learning, and the distant learning is something new, not very new, but I mean, compared to 5 or 10 years, it's something new. But what I found in my humble experience that we think that the students are learning, but actually the ChatGPT or artificial intelligence is doing their job. It's doing their homework, it's doing the discussions, it's doing the summaries, it's doing all these things. So we as teachers or instructors or trainers, let me say, that we have to keep our eyes on in parallel while teaching the progress of artificial intelligence and because it can be misleading and at the end we find ourselves in a point that the students haven't learned actually and the time is over, semester is over, or and so on. What do you think about this?
Yeah. You are a little bit fast because in Unit 4, you will find a reference to AI and machine learning. In this unit, Unit 4 of this module, it is described how machine learning, which is utilizing a variety of learning data. For example, this will be Moodle analytics, really the analytics of using the Moodle platform by the learners. And from these data, artificial intelligence then will help us to create heterogeneous learning groups and to give them very personalized learning recommendations. So, based on their individual learning behavior. This will be done by artificial intelligence. So it will come in this unit, the reference to our artificial intelligence. But what you said about ChatGPT and in your question, there was the implicit danger that the students or the vocational learners they might unlearn learning behavior, and I agree with you. This is a big danger. So I'm not saying that we should not apply ChatGPT in the classroom, but we are experts in learning. And we know that learning must be effective. They must memorize their learning behavior. And this is what we need to take care for instead of ChatGPT. So we need to keep those, you know, we need to keep the flag of learning, effective learning strategies, because we are the experts. And yes, I see a danger, as well as you, with unreflectively just taking ChatGPT as the learning result. Obviously, personally, I perceive that learning needs to be really constructed. It needs not just to be taken, it needs to be individually constructed by the learner. ChatGPT can help us in construct learning, but it's only one part. And we need to keep, we need to be aware of the other learning activities. We need to design for. Yeah, so it cannot, this is the answer, ChatGPT cannot replace effective learning.
Another question from Rashid.
Yeah. Hi, Rashid.
Thanks, Rudy, for the information. Actually, it's my comment or my question is follow-up to Dr. Arafat's, your answer to Dr. Arafat. It's about the machine learning idea from doing Moodle and ethics. I think this is very interesting. I've been waiting on it for a while. But are you going to tell us how you collected the data and the models you have achieved within this method? Because this is very interesting, actually.
Yeah.
And also, can we compare it with the results we get from the surveys and the questionnaire? Did you do this?
Yeah, this is yes, of course. This is it depends on the algorithm which will be applied, and to compare it with your assessment and your analysis of maybe a beginning at the very beginning of the learning behavior, and you make a questionnaire at the end of the learning behavior. So you somehow compare the learning process and the learning effectiveness, and eventually with machine learning, you might also then predict the future learning behavior. So that's also possible. But I am not an expert in algorithms. I'm not an expert in technological aspects of artificial intelligence. You will find information in Unit 4 on that. But I would like to come back now a little bit more to these learning styles, because what we really need to be aware of, and we need to be really sensitive. We need to be aware that every learner is a different world. And for identifying these different worlds of the learner, how they perceive meaning, how they construct meaning, we need to be well educated as trainers. We need to have knowledge on that. And this knowledge is provided, in my view, in a very concise manner in this module. So it is very much worthwhile to consider just to get more knowledge on the different world of the learners. And AI does not replace that. Yeah, I perceive the big chance of AI really in overcoming mass education, that we are showering everybody with the same training methodology, but rather develop an individualized, personalized learning behavior for each individual. And by doing that, the learner might become more engaged, might take more ownership in the learning process, themselves. But it does not, we still need this knowledge about different learning styles. So if I continue, you see here, as I said, you find a number of in-depth explanations of these different learning styles by Silverman. You have here the sensors, and you have the intuitors, and based on these learning styles, you have implications on the teaching style. Yeah, for example, here, to blend concrete information with facts, data, with abstract concepts, with theories, but also concrete experience, blend concrete experience and abstract conceptualization. So it's, rather than applying all learning styles, you try to find out what are the dominant learning styles in my group. And according to these dominant learning styles, you then design your teaching or training strategy. Or here you have examples of visual learners, verbal learners, or more kinesthetic learners. So those who learn by touching, tasting, smelling, information processing, acting, moving, interrelating, communicating. So these are the kinesthetic learners. And again, you see the implications for your training strategy. Those who are learning more by induction, or those who are learning more by deduction. The active learners or the reflective learners. So the active learners are more the extrovert learners, you know, they learn more with their peers, externally from themselves, whilst the reflective learners, they are learning more introspective, more introvertedly. And we need to know that, and again, adjust our training strategy accordingly. Interestingly, are also from a cultural perspective, the sequential learners or the global learners. So the sequential learners are those who learn in a very structured, linear way, whilst the global learners, they are open to a variety of perspectives, a variety of ideas also. Sometimes actually the global learner is lost in detail, but on the other hand is a very open learner, also going beyond their own cultural perceptions. Yeah, they are very open global learners, also trying to overcome their own cultural stereotypes. So to summarize, the idea is not to adopt all the techniques recommended for balancing different learning styles, but to pick a few which are relevant in your group of learners. And accordingly to those few styles, you then design your teaching strategy. But we need to look beyond. Kolb and Silverman's theories. But as I said, they are still very much applied in research in 2023, 2024. So still very updated theory, quite seminal theory. But we need to include a cultural perspective. We need to include specifically, for example, in my classes, I have a really cosmopolitan, intercultural group of students coming from very diverse cultures. And these cultures somehow, they influence their learning. They condition them in a certain way also in their learning. So for example, we need to take into account previous education experience, or different perspectives on competition. If I, for example, if I compare my German students with my international students, very often the German students, they do not prefer to work in groups because they are so highly competitive that they think if I work in a group, then my learning result will be worse than if I do it by my own. So the competitive drive is so important, whilst others, other cultures, you know, they group things as logically related together, which are commonly experienced. There is a different perception in cultures. The student-teacher relationships, you might have very authoritarianly educated students compared to students who are used to a democracy in the classroom, to a diversity of opinions, to disagreements. We agree to disagree, but I perceive a real cultural difference in the classroom in terms of the student-teacher relation. Whilst in, for example, in some Asian cultures, the trainer is highly appreciated, is a highly appreciated authority. In other cultures, this is not the case anymore. So we need to find out the cultural differences.
Rudy, there is a question from Ghassan to you.
Yeah, hello, Ghassan.
Hi, Rudy. Referring to your example you just mentioned about the German and international students. Okay, it's not the German international, but in general, those those who feel more competent, how can you get them to work collaboratively with the, let's say, other students who they think they are less competent than the others in that environment?
I think this is a very good question, and it's not easy to be done. I think you will find also in this material one exercise to bring stereotypes to the open. And you know, in this case, the German have set certain stereotypes, and other cultures have certain stereotypes, and to make everybody aware of these different stereotypes and make everybody empathetic for the learning style of the respective different group. When I'm coming to this exercise, I will emphasize it. This is a quite good exercise, and and also to highlight on the strength, on the sometimes complementary and divergent strengths of different cultures. Sometimes, in this case, the Germans might not be aware of the different cultural strengths of the other group. For example, I remember also teaching German and English students. The difference was very much that the German students, you know, they are very, very process orientated, very detailed. They work very detailed, but again, also very sequential, very linear. Whilst English students, they have the big picture. They are more global learners. And if you combine the two, if you look at a synthesis of the two, they are complementary, because you have those who have the big picture, the global learners, and those who are really fall in love with detail, but sometimes don't see the forest for the trees. So you need, I think, to emphasize the complementarity of cultural strengths, for example. But
Yeah,
maybe Dolores, you can also give your experience, because you're also teaching in the cultural groups.
Yeah.
sorry.
Ghassan, maybe also a point. First of all, the question is very good, but very difficult to answer, because as Rudy said, you know, you have the highly individualistic people. But, you know, something we also said to our students, first of all, you have to do, for example, an exam, which is a team presentation. So here's when the students, they have no other chance than to work together. And here is where we have an open discussion with the students, the idea of appreciation of others' knowledge, other competences, you know, respect, knowledge sharing, knowledge co-creation. You need to bring these highly individualistic people, it doesn't matter if they are German, Americans, or whoever, to say what is the benefit of a reciprocal exchange of information, that I can learn from you and you can learn from me. So, but here I would say it's a lot of extra mentoring from our side to facilitate the advantages for you, highly individualistic person, when you enter into a knowledge exchange with other cultures. Hard job, it might work.
Okay, thank you, Dolores and Rudy. I think in our context, like in Palestine, we don't have that diversity in cultures in general. We are all Palestinians. So, but we still have that kind of students who are feel they're more competent than others, and they would not prefer to work with others. And in that context, that's my actually point here, is how to get them even within the same culture, like here in Palestine, to work together or collaboratively, of course, not during the exams, for other work or other assignments, for example.
Yeah, Ghassan, you have to see the students. We said to them also, when you are on the labor on the labor work, you have no other chance than to work with other people. And in this working environment, you will have to really cooperate with your colleagues, if you like it or not. So again, for the student is the awareness of being more flexible, of listening to others, of appreciation and respect for the experience and the knowledge the others bring. And again, we are not isolating none of the students and none of the workers in this life. So better open for learning from each other.
Yeah, I think that even if Palestinian students might not have different cultural implications, but still they have a different parent, for example, different parent background. They you know, the level, the educational level might be different according to the family background, or you have individualistic characteristics. They are not all culturally related. So you also have individual personality traits in each culture. And I think what also Dolores says is it is about awareness of complexity, that our problems are so complex, even in a singular country, and they are affected, as also in your country, by so many external exogenous factors, that this complexity implies a high level of diversity, and we need to apply this unity in diversity, complementarity of diversity, and to make them appreciate that a group decision is always better than an individual decision. Beyond that is also the behavior of certain group members. So, for example, a basic behavior is that if people work in groups, then some people think, you know, they don't pull their weight as much as the others do. To make really, as a trainer, to make sure that everybody has a fair contribution to the teamwork. This is also sometimes a reason why they don't want to work in groups, because not all the students provide the same level of contribution to the teamwork or the learners. This is also the trainer who must take care for that.
There is another question for Murat.
Good morning for everyone. I think that it's the most important challenge maybe in front of the instructor himself, because I think that the individual is depend on two factors, the genetic factors and the environment factors. And when we work as a team, which is together, everyone achieve more. If the students feel that they are benefits from the others, maybe they are work together. So I think that the main tasks of the instructor, how to feel that they are a win-win approach. If they feel that they are working in a win-win approach, maybe you trusted them to work together. Because you know that there is no two typical persons. Maybe some similarities between the students, but I think that every student has its own universe. And so this is the main challenge of the instructor, how to represent the activities, how to prepare the tasks, the exams, the quizzes, and so on, the activities, so to represent the collaborative tasks to work to each other. Thank you.
Yes, I agree. This was the activity which I recommended to Ghassan before, to make an activity, for example, I am and I am not. So each learner makes a list of characteristics or abilities which she or he is. Yeah, I am. So to describing her or his identity, but I am not. Maybe I am not reflecting certain stereotypes. And then if the students identify, this could be a way to identify individual strengths and weaknesses of each other, particularly strengths, yeah, focus on the strengths, and then to mutually appreciate this, and then a win-win situation, as you said, can happen. Yes. So there are 5-dimensional activities for active participation in e-classrooms. For example, to create a safe space, everybody can really express freely, you know, their background, their perspectives. Then their stories, their life-changing experiences. Ask learners about how they feel. So an atmosphere of openness and a sense of inclusion. This inclusion activity, what I mentioned, I think is a very interesting one. It was suggested by MIT, and you see it on the right side. Here are the steps for I am, but I am not. Each participant folds a piece of paper in half to create 2 separate columns. In the first column, they write I am. In the second column, they write I am not. In between those columns, they write the word but. Of course, this is more now related to to make sure that cultural stereotypes don't relate to me as a person. Yeah, but still you might also apply it within a singular cultural context. Then you learn, they learn to take the perspective of each other. So they learn to work in each other's shoes, which makes them more empathetic. And I think this comes also by storytelling, by a more emotional atmosphere in the classroom, and bring bias to the front. Biases also relate to social groups, for example, and to say, no, I don't have that. Although I am from this social group, but I am not this person. So this could also be applied to a single cultural group. Then again, now there is the time for self-reflection, for the trainer. That is a suggested group activity you can do, and again the references. Then we come to the unit 3, where we relate to specific aspects of digitalization, of digital literacy. And as one colleague said before, it starts from the trainer. Of course, we need to identify there is a digital gap. There is a digital generation gap. The trainer needs to, to learn new digital tricks, if you like. An old dog needs to learn new tricks, as the saying goes. So as trainers, we need to be digitally literate as well. And learn, for example, how to apply Web 2.0 tools. How, for example, if this is an avatar, or if this is a whiteboard, or if this is a discussion forum, or you make quizzes, knowledge quizzes, for example, to check progress in learning, whatever it might be, so that we apply Web 2.0 tools to support our training strategy and our learning goals. That's actually what this unit is all about. And also the digital tools, and this comes back to the discussion with ChatGPT, what we had before. These digital tools or AI tools still need to support the key core skills of deep learning, which are collaboration, creativity, critical thinking, citizenship, relating to appreciate diverse values and diverse problem solutions, character, specific characters such as grit, so passion and perseverance, and resilience, which we need particularly in our current crisis-laden time. We need to be more resilient, alongside the desire to make learning an everlasting and integral part of our life. And finally, communication, an ability to communicate effectively. So this digital literacy needs to support those 6 key cores of deep learning. So for me, the technology is a tool, and also ChatGPT is a tool to support these 6 core skills of deep learning. Then you see here, when you have more time, maybe you have a look at those quite informative YouTubes. This is, for example, a YouTube on you don't see it, sorry. There is a YouTube on metacognitive strategies. So metacognitive, as I said before, is to know how we think really, and how we create meaning, and that we take control of this process, and we don't outsource it to the lecturer. Yeah. So the student, the learner should take the ownership in this learning process. So this is this, how can we apply a metacognitive strategy? We need to plan the learning, we need to direct attention, we need to have a certain selective attention to certain patterns or certain keywords. Then we need to monitor our understanding, and we need to evaluate at the end our understanding. Yeah, that's the instructor support. Embrace the use of all types of Web 2.0 tools. The learners should be surveyed for their digital literacy. And when the learner encounter a digital problem, then we should be troubleshooters as trainers, and to give them a straightforward digital support. And of course, the infrastructure must be provided by the organization. So for example, use of Moodle, a Moodle platform, or Web 2.0 technologies, or assistant technologies for learners with specific special learning needs. Okay, we have already discussed this part. Yeah, as you remember at the beginning, we said online training lacks the human dimension. That was a key gap. So the trainer should make her or himself human by knowing the audience, use their preferred name, understand the learner's expectation, learn about each individual learner's background. Also tell them their background, and be genuine. And don't overthink. Use inclusive language. So try to avoid any phrases or sayings which might be used unintentionally, but which might discriminate any marginalized group. So always have a very inclusive language. For example, it's mentioned here, we shouldn't say you guys. Yeah, you guys should complete the assignment by Friday, but rather say everyone should complete this assignment by Friday. It's just an example to avoid language which might trigger the feeling of discrimination or marginalization of certain groups. Encourage open communication, be consistent in your philosophy, and continuously gather feedback and information, also by Web 2.0 tools. And then, for example, you have here a summary of questions which you can ask yourself before creating an online course. Just a general roadmap based on 3 questions. What is required to enroll in the course? So more, the administrative, formal requirements. are the instructors providing diverse course content? This was also, we found actually in our empirical research. So diversity in terms of different learning style consideration, diversity in terms of relating content to a diverse range of people and groups and perspectives. Again, inclusion, and what opportunities do learners have to demonstrate their knowledge in different ways. And again, here with appropriate Web 2.0 tools. And the question of web accessibility for each learner, with a particularly emphasis on assistive technologies. I think this is something where also the research at the end was not, it could be further developed, this research project, on the specific really needs of people with disabilities, to help them being more effective in the labor market, to give them better chances in the labor market, and that we apply more assistive technologies in training, whatever this might be, for Braille, the Braille, for example, for people which are visually impaired, or maybe for people with autism, maybe more augmented reality, to visualize the simple factors of an action. So I think this should come to the fore in the future. I think this would be a real contribution to help integrate people with disabilities. Okay, then you have here allowing assistive technology. Maybe I can. Time is over. I recommend you to have a look at those YouTube allowing assistive technologies, a summary. And the last unit is then how can artificial intelligence or machine learning help us to better identify the individual learning styles. And the main contribution you see is actually summarized here. Machine learning is applied to the learning analytics extracted from Moodle platforms to create heterogeneous groups automatically. Some data can be used from the online questionnaire, what we have, for example, discussed with Nuha at the very beginning, or some data are extracted from the interaction of students with a Moodle forum, and from these real-time data, and they are really the big data, then the algorithms of the AI suggest individual recommendations for individual learning. And again, you will find YouTubes here in more detail. And yeah, in all my, there is maybe a summary of learning styles to be matched with teaching styles. First of all, what is the level of self-direction of the learner? What are their linguistic styles? Visual, auditory, kinesthetic? How can they be categorized according to Kolb's learning styles? How can they be categorized based on Felder and Silverman's learning style? What are the learning styles affected by cultural diversity? There is more detail in Module 6. And the influence of digital literacy on the metacognitive learning strategies, which I think is the jewel in the crown, these metacognitive learning strategies, that they learn how to learn. And particularly aspect on people with learning disabilities. We have more detail here in Module 5. And my appeal, when you're designing a training, think beforehand if you have people with specific learning abilities, because sometimes they are shy to talk about it. Yeah. So again, we need to be empathetic for their specific needs, and then develop customized learning. This would be the vision, that we have really individualized learning rather than mass education with the use of artificial intelligence. And with this summary, I thank you. And as I said, there is a lot of information. If you have time, you will enjoy going into more. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Rudy. Very interesting presentation. So very useful. I wonder if please, the floor is for any questions.
Yes, I have a question, Dr. Kemal Madrasa.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, please.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum and good morning to everyone.
Good morning. Salam alaikum.
Thank you, Prof. I think that we met before in Slovenia and we had a good discussion that time.
Yes.
Sorry, I've been facing technical issues in my internet. So it was on and off, right? Because I have delayed my comments and my questions till the end. So sorry for that.